Downing Street has rejected claims of a cover-up as the COVID-19 inquiry extended the deadline for the government to hand over Boris Johnson's unredacted WhatsApp messages and notebooks. As today's deadline approached, the Cabinet Office was given until 4 p.m. on Thursday to turn over the evidence after officials claimed that they do not possess all of the documents demanded. And also, for what it's worth, that a lot of it isn't relevant, which I think is important. But should these WhatsApp messages and notebooks, which could possess sensitive, security, personal and completely unrelated details, actually be made public? The reason I ask is because there's two camps here, for the most part. I'm oversimplifying this, but there are the people who just want all the information out there and think that there was a huge amount of scandals to be had in relation to lockdowns and the science and the vaccines and all of this. Fair enough, OK. And they want all of that out there. There are also people who think that there is an epic kind of witch hunt and stitch-up going on that is got politically motivated undertones to it. And so it does divide people, this. Joining me now is the former Conservative MP Neil Parish and former Labour MP Denis MacShane. Great stuff. Neil, I'll start with you. Why not? Should the Cabinet Office be handing over every single thing, every single diary entry, every single WhatsApp message, unredacted? Do we need to know?
No, I don't, actually. I don't think we should. They shouldn't hand it all over, because I think government acts on, we had a pandemic, we had all sorts of things being dealt with, and a lot going on. A lot of messages were passing from one minister to another, from Boris to others. And I think, this idea that we have to see absolutely everything, I think it's just a huge media and Westminster bubble. And I think a lot of the public say, just get on and govern. We don't actually need an inquiry to go into every depth. And surely there must be some things that can be allowed to be private. What are we doing? Are we, we have never actually done this before in government, is actually take everything out and wash it, and then is it clean? And I think, yes, there's problems there, I suspect. And yes, they need a lot of information, but do they need everything? No. And is there a bit of a witch hunt going on? Yes, I definitely think there is. I
completely see that there will be no faith that any single minute detail wouldn't be leapt on by the vast majority of the press there, and that, they could have faith that the civil service is maybe going to handle this entirely accurately or whatever. I can get all of that. But, Denis, clearly people are nervous, and clearly there is some kind of stalling, and that would imply a cover-up.
That's what I think the whole country thinks. It's an astonishing decision by Rishi Sunak. Don't blame the blob, Patrick. This is Rishi Sunak's weakness again. 226,700 people, 226,000 people died with COVID-19 on their death certificate during the pandemic. We have an absolute, not right, we have a duty as a nation to explore every aspect of it. You and GB News, other programmes, have questioned much of how COVID-19 pandemic was handled, rightly so in my view. And I can't believe Neil Parish, who's a decent man, is saying that we should back Rishi Sunak's desire to cover this up and not put every single document in front of into the public domain.
Well, Neil, come back to that. Do the public not have a right to know if lockdowns actually were known to be relatively ineffective, if indeed that's what comes out, or if there was an issue with the vaccines or something along these lines? Do the public not have a right to know this? It affected lives. They're still paying for it.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say to Denis is that we all accept the huge amount of life that was lost, and everybody is upset about that. So I wouldn't back away from what he said on that at all. But I do actually think there comes a moment when you're actually in government to have to make decisions, do them very quickly, all the way through. Whether it's protective PPI you needed, whatever it was, whether it was vaccines, all of these things had to be dealt with. And actually, some of them actually were dealt with very well. Others there were problems with, and there's no doubt, Boris had a great deal of problems with adhering to the rules, like the rest of the population had. So, lots of things there. But do we actually need to take absolutely everything? No, I don't. And I think, what are we achieving by it in the end? If you're not careful, we're not careful, we will actually destroy our way of governing. And I think, Dennis, if Labour was in power, they wouldn't have done everything perfectly. And I'm not suggesting for one moment our regime did everything perfectly either. And I'd be the first to admit that. But I think we've got to be careful that we don't actually destroy the whole process.
Dennis, why would Boris Johnson want to do anything these days? He's been dragged through the mud, unfairly so in many people's book. He's been hounded by the media. He wasn't given a fair hearing at the time. The civil service appears to be pretty dead against doing anything that the government wants them to do at the moment, if reports are to be believed. He's already been hauled over the coals by an inquiry. He's seen what's happened to Dominic Raab, for goodness sake. I mean, he should be keeping his WhatsApp messages firmly in his own pocket, shouldn't he?
Well, he certainly seems to have plenty of time to go over to Las Vegas and join the sort of strip joints there and make a huge amount of money, millions of $1 million, chatting up right-wing Americans.
If he would have still, Dennis, just to say, no, Dennis, I'm going to push back on this because he would still be Prime Minister of this country not doing that if he hadn't been hounded out. If he gets absolutely, utterly hounded out, then he's well within his rights to go to Las Vegas. He'd be one of the few people to come back from Las Vegas with more money than he went with.
We live in a thing called a parliamentary democracy. You didn't hound him out. I didn't. Neil didn't. It was Rishi Sunak, Sajid Javid, and all the Tory MPs who said this man now is such a liar. We know that all along. He can't stay as Prime Minister. Now, look, the Iraq, this is the second biggest inquiry. It's going on far too long, in my view. Other countries have completed their COVID inquiries. But this is the biggest one since the Iraq War. And I don't remember anybody saying that any document that Tony Blair's name was on it, as a conversation, a minute, a paper, whatever, should be kept from that inquiry because the business of government needs to continue. We need the truth. The nation has the right to the truth.
Okay.
And it is quite outrageous that Rishi Sunak is now protecting Boris Johnson.
I've got to be very quick, Neil, on this. Very quick. Rishi Sunak, is it him who's scared? Because he's already got these accusations that he stabbed Boris in the back. And good grief, if some WhatsApp messages come out that paint him in a bad light, he really is finished.
I think there may be something there, who knows? But I think the key, I will repeat my argument, Patrick, is that we need to get this inquiry finished and get it done. And I think if we're actually contemplating our navels as much as we are at the moment, we will destroy all government. So let's just get it done and get it done much more quickly. Okay. And then we will see. I don't think there's half as much there. This is stuff which everybody loves to make the most of. Wow. It's conspiracy theories gone absolutely mad, in my view. Thank you.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Both of you, thank you very much. Good stuff.